And everyone's sick of waiting. They're done waiting. It says we're live, but I'll make you wait just a little bit longer.
Yeah.
This is, it's like, come to me, my babies. Let me quell your pain.
Anticipation.
Okay, let's do this thing in 3, 2, and 1. The revenge tour for Andy Dalton as the Bears beat up on the Bengals 20-17 is that final score. It is the week 2 recap here on the Audible. Let's start with the Bengals side first. Joe Burrow, 3 picks. It was one of those days, Bloom.
Yeah.
But with those 3 picks, if you weren't penalized for that, you got a couple of touchdowns. You got 207 yards passing. Tyler Boyd went 7 of 73. T. Higgins 6 for 60 and 1 touchdown. Jamar Chase 2 for 54 and a touchdown. Not much else from anyone else except Joe Mixon, 20 carries for 69 yards. He was the only one to touch the ball on the ground. So Joe Mixon plan is in full effect, just not leading to the wins.
This was a tougher afternoon for the Bengals offense. We're looking at week 1, we're recontextualizing. The Bears defense may be a little better than they looked against the Rams in week 1. Joe Burrow was on a 199 pass streak without an interception, Cease. And then he threw like 3 interceptions in the next 5 minutes. But then he rallied his team back. They had a chance at the end if they had gotten the ball back. So at least you'd like to see that fight. Too little, too late. Mixon contained, as you said. This Chicago run defense isn't exactly a pushover. In a departure from last year, Burrow only had 30 attempts, but still supported the fantasy value of all 3 receivers. Tyler Boyd bounced back, so if he was dropped, we'll talk about that in the waiver wire show. T. Higgins had a touchdown, also had a fumble, so he's going to have to work on ball security, and then another long touchdown for Jamar Chase, late. So Higgins and Chase touchdowns were when the game was a little bit out of hand. And we'll talk about this when we get to the afternoon games, the late games. Minnesota defense, this is going to be a defense we pick on when we look back at what Cincinnati was able to do, how successful their offensive game plan was. But hey, the Bengals are 1-1. They're going to Pittsburgh. And this is a yardstick game for both teams.
Right.
And, I think when we step back and look at week 2, what we're going to see is, we talked about this in the preview show, that sense of urgency from some teams. We're learning who these teams are. And as usual in the NFL, we have to have a malleable, flexible mind to be able to understand what we're watching unfold compared to what we expected.
Compared to what we expected, those measuring stick games, Bloom, when you said that, I was like, which team?
Exactly.
We'll get to the Steelers a little bit later. Justin Fields, 6 of 13, 60 yards, and then threw a pick. Andy Dalton, 9-11, 56 yards, and threw a touchdown. So this is an interesting situation. Allen Robinson got a touchdown, 2 for 24 and a touch. Man, Allen Robinson is so good and stuck on the Bears. We'll see if things change. Darnell Mooney, 6 for 66. Devil, get out. Nasty Nate. And then David Montgomery, 20 for 61 on the ground, 3 for 18 as a receiver. And again, not much else from anyone else, but the Bears got the win, and that's all that counts.
Yeah, exactly. See, in this afternoon, as much as any afternoon I can remember, there were wins that you, exactly like you said, hey, you got away with a win. You're not really going to look back too much and think about how. Andy Dalton gets hurt in this one. He's just scrambling to make a first down and pulls up and hurts his knee, comes back in, didn't feel good, and entered Justin Fields. Now, Justin Fields probably was better as a passer than his numbers looked. You can see the addition of his running ability. And Cecil, I also think that we can step back and say, Matt Nagy, offensive genius, or even adding quality to this offense? No. Yeah. That's probably why it's better for Fields to be honest, anyway, because he's going to play that asymmetrical football outside of structure, because the structure isn't really adding a lot of value here. Did see Allen Robinson catch the touchdown from Andy Dalton, and then you also saw Fields put one on him that he wasn't able to catch. So I think that as we've been preparing, when Fields is in, it's going to be deflating for the passing game. It should still be better for the running game, and David Montgomery looks good. He got the workload you were looking for here, the game script you're looking for here, not necessarily the numbers, but you're still feeling good. Again, Darnell Mooney had that okay day, and you hope that Justin Fields can get his deep speed in effect. And again, you look at these data points. I mean, you're not feeling great if you're a Bears fan right now. They got thumped by the Rams. They eked out a win that should have been easier against the Bengals, but they're 1-1. There's a lot of teams right now say we'll take 1-1 after 2 games. They're going to play Cleveland, another 1-1 team. So it's going to be really interesting to see which team can get the upper hand here, because Chicago doesn't really have an identity. It's probably going to be Justin Fields' week. See, so as of right now, there's no update on the Dalton knee injury. He didn't tear his ACL. He didn't strain his MCL. I think the diagnosis is a bone bruise. But doesn't this give the Bears, who insisted that Dalton's going to be the week 1 starter, doesn't this give them that opening to go to Fields and not turn back? For football watching people out there, let's hope so.
This is their window.
Yeah.
Like, this is their opportunity. And quite frankly, and I say this not even tongue in cheek, I'm dead serious. Like, Justin Fields is smarter than Matt Nagy. He understands the game better. And that's why he won't ruin him. You know what I mean? Like, right. I'm worried that Urban Meyer will ruin Trevor Lawrence, and that's only after 2 games, but whatever. And Trevor's very smart as well. But like, you worry in these situations, like when the guy's not the guy, because it is about fit.
Yeah.
Okay. Everywhere you go, it's about fit. And Justin Fields, just don't pay attention to Matt Nagy. Call Audible, call your own plays.
Yeah.
Like, do what you know how to do, because you're better at this than him. Anyway, we'll see what happens and how that happens. We saw the Browns beat up on the Texans, 31-21, the final score. Tyrod Taylor, 125 yards, touchdown. And then Davis Mills comes in, 8 for 18. Sounds about right for Davis Mills. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Didn't get hurt in this game, did he, Bloom?
Yeah. No.
Mark Ingram, 14 for 41 on the ground. Tyrod Taylor, by the way, had a rushing touchdown. David Johnson, 8 for 25. Phillip Lindsay, 5 for 2. 1 for 22, but a touchdown as a receiver for Phillip Lindsay. Somewhere Pat Shurmur's like, I didn't think he could do that. Nico Collins, 1 for 32. Andre Roberts, 1 for 35. Notice what I'm saying here. Brandon Cooks, 9 for 78 and a touchdown. So I guess Cooks is the one you can trust, and then everybody else, it's topsy-turvy time, because we're talking about the Texans.
Trust is not necessarily a word we're going to connect with the Texans very often, but Cecil, I want to take out this moment to say they were competitive. David Culley, the guys are playing hard for David Culley, and David Culley's name is not going to ring out. His name didn't ring out when he got hired anyway, because of the circumstances around it. For a while in this game, you were thinking the Texans are maybe not just going to hang in, but look pretty good and win on the road, or have a chance to win on the road against a Browns team that went into Kansas City and all but beat Kansas City. And see, this is where you start getting into like the transitive property of wins. You know how they do that thing, like at some point in the season, you can do a transitive property of wins so that everybody has beaten everybody, or can beat everybody, right? This team beat this team, which beat this team, which beat this team. And after 2 weeks, it's going to be really confusing in the AFC when you start to do that, right? The Raiders are the best team in the AFC. We'll get to that.
The Broncos are leaders in the AFC West. What?
Right,
what?
right. Well, that's a different story when you look at the schedule. They have no quality transitive wins. But Tyrod Taylor going back to Cleveland. Remember, he was Cleveland's starter 3 years ago. Playing this is as well as we've seen Taylor play in his career, and then he gets a hamstring injury, and one that already has him ruled out for week 3. So we're going to see Davis Mills. He wasn't as bad as you thought. Okay, and Brandon Cooks did get a touchdown from him. So we'll probably stick with Brandon Cooks against Carolina, the suddenly ferocious Carolina Panthers defense, another team that we look at right now as a 2-0 team. You also saw Nico Collins get hurt, Danny Amendola get hurt. Remember, Anthony Miller's already been a healthy scratch, so we'll see. Andre Roberts was pressed into duty as a receiver here. And they're competing. See, they're unlike a few other teams that we will talk about. There's nothing embarrassing about this team, and maybe this was the team that we thought was most likely to be embarrassing. But the way the schedule works out, they do have to have Carolina come into town, coming off of an important victory for them. The Browns get a victory here, Cecil, and I think this is one where we learned a little bit about Baker Mayfield, and what we learned was good.
What we learned was really good. And Baker the Baby Maker, 213 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 INT, also a rushing touchdown in this one. Nick Chubb with 11 for 95 and a rushing touchdown. Kareem Hunt, 13 for 51 on the ground. Demetric Felton, 2 for 51 and 1. Harrison Bryant, 4 for 49. Austin Hooper, 5 for 40. Just when we're thinking, like, hey, David Njoku this year, maybe, huh? No, 2 for 18. because all the other 3 tight ends were catching passes. Rashard Higgins 2 for 27 in this one. Donovan Peoples-Jones just isn't doing it, 1 for 14, but at least he did more than Anthony Schwartz, who had nothing. And Jarvis Landry 1 for 9. Speaking of nothing. So there you go. The Browns getting the win, doing it with their tight ends, plural, and their running backs.
And they needed to because Jarvis Landry goes out early in this one with a knee injury. No word yet on the severity. You have to think it's going to keep him out for the game against the Bears. So, yeah, the passing game shifts to the tight ends. And like you said, David Njoku, that incredible athleticism, actually 3rd out of the 3 tight ends. So we'll continue to watch this. They're all what the heck tight end plays at this point. Donovan Peoples-Jones had a fumble in this one. Anthony Schwartz, like you said, not doing anything. Rashard Higgins not doing as much. You did see Andy Janovich get a touchdown after a muffed punt, taking advantage of what they can, and sees other players stepping up too. Demetric Felton had one of the best touchdowns of week 2. A spin move, some speed, some toughness. Yeah, they have something. So maybe that's part of the answer at wide receiver with these injuries. We don't know when Beckham's going to play. We don't know when Landry's going to play. Let's see some more Demetric Felton. Not necessarily coming to the waiver wire show, Cease, but you love seeing him make a definitive play and then another definitive play or a set of plays for Baker Mayfield. He throws an interception, tries to make a tackle. Don't try to make the tackle. I mean, unless it's just you or a touchdown, don't try to make the tackle. Gets shaken up. You wondered, see, there was a point on week 2, Sunday afternoon, where the quarterback injuries were coming in. It's such a quick succession that it was really difficult to wrap your mind around it. Thankfully, Baker Mayfield came back into the game, played well, and you see him, running in a touchdown, and you see him running and showing toughness. Not running a touchdown, but you see some toughness here from Baker Mayfield. And you see this team, I think, carrying over the energy we saw them generating last year, where it doesn't have to be pretty. Lots of ugly wins on this day. It doesn't have to be pretty. It's a team effort. Everybody contributes. And now we're going to see another team coming in with an ugly win, Chicago. So really interesting matchup. One of these teams probably will be 2-1 and feeling pretty good. And for Browns fans, Cease, like the first 3 quarters or 2.5 quarters of the season, exactly the way you would draw it up. Since then, it's been bumpy, but I think this team is showing resilience.
Showing resilience is the next game's strategy. 27-24, Rams over the Colts, and with Matthew Stafford saying, I'm better than that other guy. Look at him over there. We'll get to Carson Wentz in just a little bit, but let's talk about 278, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT for Stafford. Cooper Kupp goes off, 9 for 163 and 2. If you face Cooper Kupp, you probably didn't win. Darrell Henderson, 3 for 29 as a receiver, and then 13 for 53 and a rushing touchdown there. Sony Michel did get worked in, 10 for 46, very respectable Bloom, but without that touchdown, not a lot there from a guy you maybe had in as a what the heck flex. Robert Woods, you maybe had in 5 for 64. You're going, I got Tyler Higbee, 1 for 8. I just picked up Van Jefferson off the waiver wire, 1 for 14. So, the whole Van Jefferson's this year's Justin Jefferson, not exactly working out in this contest at least, but hell, the Rams win, Bloom.
Yeah, and this one was fascinating because we saw the NFC West maraud through the league in week 1. AFC South not looking so good. And you wondered what the Colts were going to have for the Rams, with the Rams coming off of that really strong Sunday night performance. Nothing wrong with the Rams offense, though. Stafford looking good. And where this looked like it was going to be a wider target tree in week 1, it became a narrow target tree in week 2, really focusing on Cooper Kupp. Yes, Robert Woods did okay if you played him, but it's obviously Kupp that has the upside. It's Kupp that has the high ceiling. And you even saw there was a point in this game, it seemed like the Rams were going to be able to control this game, and then there was a muffed punt, and Stafford and Kupp, the Colts get the lead late in the game, the crowd's going crazy. Stafford and Kupp just go right down the field quickly. You like seeing that. And I think, Cease, that's one of the things that you're seeing that's different about the Rams is Matthew Stafford. And maybe some, like Jay Cutler, have criticized his cool persona to a fault. But I think you're seeing that permeate in a way that they weren't going to get that from Jared Goff, right? I mean, they go down late on the road with Jared Goff. You don't feel like, Jared Goff's going to make the plays and this is going to be fine. So you really see them get that change. And then you have Darrell Henderson getting hurt with rib injury. Sony Michel comes in and looks good. Sony Michel looks good. And I think, again, we talked about this in the preseason. we glossed over how Michelle looked good last year. He has gotten over some of the knee issues, I think, that have held him back. Maybe it's still going to shorten his career or shorten the viability of his career. But I think that Michelle, if Henderson can't play, you have the Rams going up against Tampa, so it's not a great matchup. You're not necessarily going to plug Michelle in, but we're looking forward to that. Tyler Higbee. You like Tyler Higbee after week 1. He's still running the routes, just not getting the targets. Again, this wider target tree of week 1 turns into a narrow target tree. I think against Tampa Bay, you're going to need every branch on that tree.
Right.
So don't give up on Tyler Higbee yet. And, the Rams, they get an easy win. They get a tough road win. Now they're really going to see where they measure up when Tampa comes to town next week.
You mentioned it with Stafford, Bloom. What is what a quarterback thinks is fun? When Jared Goff has no pressure, right? And it's like either they're getting clown hammered and he's just out there slinging it. Jared Goff thinks that's fun. When Matthew Stafford is down, that's when he thinks it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he's down, it's when he can shove it in your face.
Yeah, well, see,
that's what Stafford's good at.
And what was our first definitive moment in Stafford's career? It's when he broke his collarbone and still won the game, right?
Yeah.
I mean that's Stafford. So yeah, he likes the adversity.
Adversity is a special thing. Colts have plenty of adversity, mainly caused by them. 247, 1 up and 1 down for Carson Wentz. Okay. Michael Pittman, 8 for 123. There you go, kid. After a whole hum and mostly week 1, there's Michael Pittman coming through. Zach Pascal came through for you with the touchdown. 5 for 38. Touchdown, though, you're fine. Jack Doyle, 5 for 64. Mo Alley Cox, 1 for 18. Are we talking about the Browns tight ends? Where's Kylan Granson? So you looked at Jonathan Taylor. You wanted some more. 15 for 51 is what you got. And then 1 for 2 as a receiver. So the Colts working. A little bit of Jacob Eason as well, who throws a pick. So there you go. And Indianapolis is 0-2.
Yeah, more quarterback injuries. By the way, because my brain gets stuck on these things. We're doing this Monday morning, not in the heat of passion of a Sunday. So Baker Mayfield did score a rushing touchdown. Things aren't they're fuzzy. I'll tell you what's not fuzzy about this one is Jacob Eason is not good, not ready. Carson Wentz, he makes one mistake. This was a really frustrating game for the Colts. And see, we talked about this in the preview. You don't want to be 0-2. You don't want to be 0-2. It's just one of those taboo numbers in the NFL. And the Colts and a few other teams we're going to talk about really showed that fighting your way out of the corner. But early in this game, they just kept shooting themselves in the foot. There was a goal line stand. There was Carson Wentz with the flippant little flip that was intercepted in the red zone. This should have been a game where the Colts, I don't want to say dominated the Rams, but just outflanked them. And it would have been a good one for Wentz, a good one for Reich. And hey, you can beat the Rams. Certainly in the AFC South, you're going to feel good. They do, with the help of that special teams miscue, get ahead. But then Wentz gets hurt, sprained both of his ankles. That's tough. That's tough to do. And Wentz is laying it out there. Eason comes in, fourth quarter, immediately throws an interception. Game's over. You're not going to win it with Jacob Eason. We'll see if we see Eason. By the way, AFC South showdown, Indianapolis going to Tennessee in week 3. You didn't see much from Nyheim Hines. So we're seeing these corrections, right? Correction the other way, Michael Pittman looking really good here. Hopefully he wasn't dropped too hastily last week. You saw Jack Doyle taking over the tight end ranks. You saw Zach Pascal catching another touchdown. This team showed so much fight in this game. You're not really worried about this team if you're a Colts fan because of how much fight they showed, but you are worried about Carson Wentz and the ankles. We may be looking at an AFC South where 9 wins, 9-8 will get it done. So even though they are 0-2, you're not that worried about them. We just have to see where Carson Wentz is because starting Jacob Eason is a recipe for a loss.
Recipe for disaster going up against a mad Bills team who lost to the Steelers. How do you do that? That game, by the way, Bloom, will be one at the end of the year when we're going for playoff matchups, right? That the Bills will be like, oh, well, they lost to the Steelers in week 1, so they don't have home field advantage.
Right.
They're the number 2 seed, not the number 1 seed. See
Right.
what you get, Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
See what you get. So the Dolphins are the team that took it out on 35-0. Josh Allen, 179 yards, 2 up and 1 down, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Stephon Diggs, 4 for 16, a touch. Emmanuel Sanders going to do 2 for 48. It was Dawson Knox. Hey, they can use tight ends with a touchdown there, 2 for 17. Cole Beasley, 4 for 36. And then Devin Singletary, 13 for 82, 1 rushing touchdown. Zach Moss back and scores 2 rushing touchdowns. So the Bills running back situation confounds. They add a little Dawson Knox, and they cruise to a win over Miami.
And again, doing the math. So if Miami can go into New England and eke out a win at New England, and Buffalo can do this down in Miami, what does that mean for the AFC South power rankings? Bills showing a lot of power here. I will say, if you have Josh Allen as your quarterback, you're a little worried. He did have a garbage time rushing touchdown wiped off the board that you would have felt better about this day. But I just don't know that Allen is going to light it up the way he has in the past. You have Washington this week. Cecil, if you took Josh Allen and maybe you have Kirk Cousins as your backup, you're genuinely asking yourself, who's my start this week? So that's where we are with Allen. Even though the Bills are okay with this bounce back win, you still have the running back committee, and Devin Singletary rips off like a 46-yard touchdown in this one. You think, okay, this is Singletary's backfield. No, Moss is still there, and I think he buried his aunt this week, so you want to send out condolences to him and his family. He had a crucial fumble early in this one, then ended up scoring 2 touchdowns. So perpetual what the heck flex, Zach Moss. You like to see him redeeming himself there. You did see Josh Allen throw an interception to Xavier Howard. It's not a Miami game without a Xavier Howard interception.
Right.
Stephon Diggs gets his, but because Miami didn't make this a competitive game, nobody else really did. Sanders had a few catches, I think a downfield catch. Beasley was all right. The important thing is they're not 0-2, and they're not 0-2 by a large margin, but they've got Washington coming. Washington's going to be a tough out. Washington has a long week of rest. They're coming off a stirring victory. See, there were so many games this week that were like in the last few minutes back and forth.
People going to doubt Taylor Heineke now?
Yeah, right? So it's a compelling matchup. It's a compelling matchup. Miami, on the other hand, almost nothing compelling about this team this week.
Let's move on to I was going to say let's just move on to the next game, but I guess we'll talk about Miami, Bloom. So let's do it, because Jacoby Brissett in Tua Tagovailoa, 4 passes and then out. Here comes Jacoby, didn't do anything, threw a pick. Myles Gaskin, so many Myles Gaskin truthers, like, he's good. Like, okay. Not when it's 35-0. Is anybody good? Jalen Waddle? Like, I enjoy watching this game as the season goes on, Bloom, because we get to learn things about teams, right? We have our preconceived notions. We've done the study and the film and blah, blah, blah. And then we get to the season, you see, does it work out? I'm not learning anything with Miami. I'm not learning anything about the receivers. I'm not learning anything about Tua. I'm not learning anything about the running backs. Like, I had preconceived notions about them, and they weren't great, by the way. But I still wanted to see if anybody would surprise me. I mean, Waddle 6 for 48 doesn't surprise. Devontae Parker 5 for 42 doesn't. I don't learn anything. Mike Gesicki, I got Gesicki 3 for 41. I mean, we're not learning anything. And hey, now Brian Flores, you're 1-1 and look really bad after this game.
This was a team last year that was defined by forcing turnovers. They were making plays, timely plays on offense and on defense. And Cecil, you know what I was thinking during this game?
What was that?
The Eagles own the Dolphins' first-round pick next year. So, remember the San Francisco pick they got, I think it's the 2023 pick. Anyway, Tua goes out, rib injury, gets carted off. I mean, he walks off the field, then gets carted to the locker room. They're saying no severe injury for him, and that whether he can play in week 3 is a pain tolerance issue.
You know what that means, right? Do you know why teams say pain tolerance?
Why? So they can set him up to say he's a wuss if they don't play.
He's just not. I mean, and we checked him out, and and,
the doctor said he could play.
Yeah.
So you just have to wonder. Dare I say the pass offense was okay with Jacoby Brissett compared to Tua? I mean, at this point, Cease, and I know that I talked a lot in the preseason, offseason about how it's a little unfair to Tua to say that his second year is kind of his make or break year. But where's the make at this point? I'm only seeing break, even if there's no breaks in his ribs. Jacoby Brissett, you kind of feel for. He didn't have a bad interception to start out, but then the team got stopped on downs, and you had a Jakeem Grant fumble in the red zone. You had a Jalen Waddle muff of a punt. Just everything was going wrong. He was still moving the offense. It wasn't a futile performance by Brissett, but as Jason pops up in the chat room, they're placing the Raiders next week, the red hot Raiders. So whoever's going to start, Cecil, I look around this offense and, like you said, I had one word: unchanged. Just Myles Gaskin, Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki. I mean, you're not excited about playing anybody, even though this matchup against the Raiders, another old school matchup, could be on paper very high scoring. How is it that the schedule maker set this up so the Dolphins, basically, we talk about 0-2, you don't want to be there. 0-3, you're basically done. I don't know if the 17-game season is going to change the math on this East. You're basically done. Raiders having a chance to go to 3-0. So yeah, just a real rough afternoon for the Dolphins. You get beat like this, shut out at home, quarterback injury or no quarterback injury. Brian Flores has some splaining to do.
He got some splaining to do, and Bill Belichick, well, he has some winning to do, and that's what he did on Sunday, 25-6, the final score over the Jets. Mac Jones, 186, no touchdowns, no INTs. You look at the receivers, well, James White, 6 for 45 as a receiver, also 5 for 20 and a rushing touchdown. Damian Harris, 16 for 62 and a rushing touchdown. Okay, there you go. Patriots running back situation, confirmed mess. There you go. Hunter Henry, 2 for 42. Jacoby Myers, 4 for 38. Jonas Smith, 4 for 28. Nelson Aguilar, 3 for 21. So this is like playing Battleship, Bloom.
Sure.
Or you're just guessing. Which Patriots players are going to be this week? Where's my Ramondre Stevenson stock?
Right.
Summer stock. Yeah. So you want to play Battleship against Bill Belichick? You're going to lose.
The biggest development out of this one is Ramondre Stevenson actually was inactive. So you're worried about Damian Harris after his late fumble cost them the week 1 win, and he's back in, and not just back in, but a 26-yard touchdown run, which was one of the highlights of the day. There were so many great highlights. It was a typical football Sunday, so there were so many great highlights. Harris, I don't know how many tackles he broke on the way, 4, 5, 6. Damian Harris showing that, yeah, he's going to add to this offense, and James White. And because of Mac Jones, he's executing, but this is going to be a conservative offense. James White gets a rushing touchdown. James White's still going to be one of the most targeted players on this team every week. James White's looking like a viable flex in PPR, if not a running back too. So you're liking your James White picks. Otherwise, Cease, Nick Folk, you got some Nick Folk? I mean, that's the guy you want from this offense. Because as long as the defense is viable, and we'll see how they've only had to face Tua and Zach Wilson so far. Next week they face, Jameis Winston. So I don't know if we're going to learn. See, it's funny because we're going to have one category of teams that we learned about and another category of teams that we didn't really learn about. New England is that kind of team. This is going to be a conservative offense. This is going to be a team that likes to win ugly, or at least not win in a pretty way for fantasy. And again, it can't get uglier than it was for New Orleans. See what Bill Belichick has in store for them next week. An interesting matchup. And again, see two teams that are 1-1, and the roadmap to 1-1 for New Orleans and New England couldn't be more different.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's the NFL, and it's the Jets. Well, 4 interceptions from Zach Wilson. Expect this to happen again, maybe even next week against the Broncos. So that's, the kid's going to have these type of days. Braxton Berrios, 7 for 73. Elijah Moore, 4 for 47. There's another Moore that we'll get to and talk about Arizona. Chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Michael Carter, 11 for 59. Ty Johnson, 12 for 50. So and even Corey Davis, I told a lot of people, hey, Corey Davis, flex play, go for it. 2 for 8.
Oh boy.
Yeah, bad. Yeah. In fact, bad.
It was bad, and that's the thing. We talked about other offenses we don't have trust connected to. That's the Jets. You thought maybe you could trust Corey Davis, clearly the target. Now, it could be that Bill Belichick said, we're going to make someone other than Corey Davis beat us, because we know that that's the comfort zone. We'll see the Jets, actually next week against Denver. So probably err on the side of leaving every Jet on the bench. One development we'll pay attention to here, we'll mention on the waiver wire show too, Michael Carter showing some burst, showing like if there's something this offense has to offer, Michael Carter might be part of it. Ty Johnson running a little better. Tevin Coleman, as expected, falling down the depth chart. And My note on this one, Cease, Mama said there'd be days like this. There'd be days like this, Mama. Are we going to really learn anything? Speaking of not learning about Zach Wilson, how can you possibly evaluate a quarterback in this situation? And you start to flash back to David Carr, right? Where, I mean, can we really say David Carr was a bust? I don't know. Because
I don't think he was. I think the Texans ruined him.
We never got a chance to really see what he could do. So that's the job for Mike LaFleur. That's the job for the Jets offensive coaches, is to make it so that we get a chance to see what Zach, he was good with a clean pocket in week 1. We need to see what he can do. And at this point, I think that you cannot hold a game like this against him as the Jets next week. Yeah, we're not going to hold that one in Denver against him either.
You love the show. You want to support the show. Do all those YouTube things. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. Because how many of our people in chat room be like, it didn't notify me? Yeah, it's YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. You have to double check that you like what you like. So make sure to like us. And thank you very much for doing just that. It's our Footballguys TV channel. Of course, we've got our daily shorts videos. Your waiver wire short was very, very popular last week, Bloom. So check us out there. Of course, we've got the Dynasty newsletter show that's coming up tonight right here on the YouTube channel. Adam and Chris taking you through some Dynasty information. Our Dynasty show, which is on Tuesday. Chad and Jordan knocking out of the park. Of course, Mailbag Show, Victoria and Troy and Dave doing their thing. In addition to IDP Blitz this year. So
Wednesday afternoons.
Wednesday afternoons doing that. So a little nugget, little tidbit for you here, in addition to the waiver wire show, the preview shows, the recap shows, which is usually done on Sunday night, but I was traveling back from Oregon, and road trips when you're in your 20s, Bloom, as you took so many on Fish Tour, like road trips are so fun in your 20s. And then you get to your 40s, you're like, I got to drive how long?
Right.
And it's like 20 hours to Oregon. I didn't do it all in one shot, but still it's like, my body doesn't like this as much anymore. So flying back, drove out, my daughter got into Oregon State, of course, and she's going to start her medical career, her journey into the medical field, as she wants to be a surgeon. So that started this week, and that's why we're doing it on Monday morning, Bloom. And it's a little bit later on Monday because I had to sleep in. Jet lag is a real thing. But anyway, we're here for you, right, Bloom?
We are. And I just want to say that I can remember coming out to visit you in 2006, 2007. And that was when Katerina saw a laptop for the first time.
Yeah, it was probably 2006. I think Katerina was like
4.
And she was fascinated by this laptop, by this computer. Right.
Technology, yeah.
She's been smarter than me since she was about 4. So
isn't that what we all want? Yeah.
I'm just excited. One day there will be a Dr. Lammey.
Yeah, that's
pretty
right.
Cool, right? Yeah.
That's right. It's a beautiful thing, and I love the fact that one of the little hidden messages of Footballguys is family first, people that you love first, and but we love you too. That's why we're here.
Yeah, and we love our chat room reacting to me and going on and on about the 49ers 2-0 over the Eagles, who are now 1-1, 17-11, the final score. Jimmy G. Remember when we had that, pain tolerance conversation, Bloom?
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo got the message about pain tolerance because the team went out and drafted Trey Sermon because it's the brain pain, coach. No, it's just a pain tolerance thing. Yeah, it's the NFL, good or bad, and that's a larger conversation. 189 a touch for Jimmy. The touch goes to Juwan Jennings. So many Juwans, but Juwan Jennings, nobody has him. Deebo Samuel got him 6 for 93. Michael Hasty 4 for 21 as a receiver, and then 5 for 38 as a rusher. Jimmy G also had a rushing touchdown. Elijah Mitchell 17 for 42. So I was one of the people saying, hey, you picked him up, plug him in. He got 42 yards. You want a little more, you're going to get greedy. That's fine. It's fantasy football. 2 for 11 as a receiver. Brandon Ayuk actually saw the field. There's another conversation. 1 for 6 though. George Kittle 4 for 17. You're fine. You have George Kittle. And either way, Trenton Cannon got picked up by the 49ers. How the hell did I miss that? I have this fascination with Virginia State. I have no idea why, Bloom, but Trenton Cannon, I always notice the Ravens picked him up, and then now the 49ers picked him up. He'll probably be on 6 other teams. But anyway, let's talk about the 49ers.
This one, again, a
You're on mute, baby.
recontextualization. Oh, I'm muting? No? Hello?
Now you're not on
Am I
mute.
back? I'm back.
Oh,
I'm back, everybody.
We can't hear you.
Oh, no.
Oh, write down the message of when to edit this part of the video out. Look at
Right.
Bloom. He's like,
Test.
how did this happen?
Test.
Yeah. Are you unplugged? Did it unplug from your machine? Or did it unplug from anything in the back?
How about
As
now?
we're scrambling. This is live radio, everyone.
Yeah, right.
Or live podcasting.
How about now?
Back out and come in and see if that does anything.
I'll be right back.
And I will monologue for everybody out there. Monologue for you here in the chat room today as Sigmund works through his technical issues. And, well, this is what you get when we do it on Monday. See, we should have just done it Sunday.
Yeah.
Should have done it Sunday. Still nothing.
Should have done it Sunday? Should have done it Sunday?
Okay.
Should have done
Let me see.
Nothing?
I can't edit your mic settings. No.
The people out there here?
Nothing.
Hello?
Can't hear you still.
I think they can hear
in the chat room here.
They can hear me. They can hear me. Chat room. I wish we had the chat room.
Yeah, it might be my headphones. I think maybe no.
Everybody says everybody says I am Ian's cat says that we can hear you, but they can hear me.
And we can hear. Can you hear Bloom? Can you hear Bloom?
Yes.
For the chat room. This is where our chat room hosts. They can.
They're saying I'm fine.
Yes.
They're saying I'm fine.
Brian, you can hear Bloom.
This is good.
Yes.
See what you miss if you and the people who aren't in the chat room will never know. So it's something about your headphones.
Let me try this.
Microphone. Thanks for your patience, everybody. You know, sometimes I wish we had the chat room. One of the nice things about having the chat room, Cecil, is that we can say, like, can you give us a hand? Because aren't there times in life that you wish there was like an audience? Well, there's a lot of times you wish there wasn't an audience. Cecil. Hey, everybody. Thanks, everybody. Since you can hear me, I'll continue to talk to you all. How's everyone doing out there? And I hope you're all having a good Monday. And we're getting things set up here at our new residence, but we're going to have a nice background for you. No? Cecil still says no.
Total.
Well, let's go back. Maybe we'll do a solo recap. I don't even know what game we were going to go on. Folks, I'm just, without Cecil setting me up, I'm not really even sure what to say. I wore a fish show. 10 points for anybody who can guess which fish show this shirt was from. What can we talk about with while I'm waiting for Cecil to come back and our technical difficulties to be worked out? A PR official said that Andy Dalton is the team's quarterback when healthy, but Matt Nagy would not commit to Andy Dalton. So this is going to be something interesting to watch unfold. The Jarvis Landry update here is week to week, and looks like the Browns are going to be going in with their running back and tight end led offense. Tell a childhood story, Lester Freeman says. Oh, man. I mean, I could go. There's a lot of good embarrassing stories from my childhood. Cecil, you came back in just as I was going to tell an embarrassing story from my childhood. Can you hear me, Cecil? Still not? Still no? Still no. All right. Well, bear with us, folks. Now? Hello? Mama said there'd be days like this. There'd be days like this. Hey, folks. Okay, story time while Cecil's doing this. And hopefully Cecil will just pop back up and Cecil will say, there's Sigmund. Story time. Wow. I'm trying to think of a good story to tell about me. Well, I can tell one story I think that portended where we've had it today, which is, I'll start out here because it's best for me to tell stories about other people than myself. My stepfather, my mom was married 4 times. My dad was married 4 times too. My mom used to say, at least I found 4 men that would marry me. The 4th man, Mike Belsky, a true original. They don't make him like him anymore. He was a professional boxer. He was a coal miner. And he also trained boxers and some world champs out in the woods. in Granville Hollow near California, Pennsylvania, home of California University of Pennsylvania, or as we like to call it, Harvard on the Mon. It was a wonderful place. You could go and pick wild blackberries, and they had a ring out there for outdoor events. Some of the boxers for boxing fans out there that you might know that trained out there. I remember Bert Cooper trained out there. One time, Bert Cooper came to our house, and our Doberman came out to greet him, and he ran and jumped onto the top of the nearest car hood. So sorry, Bert Cooper's listening, and he doesn't want that story told. So I used to listen to my Pittsburgh Pirates. I wanted to be the Pirates play-by-play announcer. I would keep my stat book with me while I was listening on the radio and update all the stats and keep score. And I left that in the boxing gym when I went to spend a lot of time at the gym when my stepdad would go and help Buzzy Garnick, who, if you've watched on ESPN, if you've watched Friday Night Fights boxing, you've probably seen him, if not in the corner, associated with some of the boxers on there over the years. So he found Buzzy found my notebook. This was when I was like 9 or 10 years old. And he said they found it and they couldn't figure out who it belonged to. And then immediately they remembered that I was there with my stepdad, and they knew it belonged to me because it didn't belong to any of the boxers. And for those of you that have been in a boxing gym, as I tell the story, I'm remembering the smell of a boxing gym. And yes, smells are I think they make an incredible emotional connection in your head with your memories. And of course, that would be what I can remember. That's what my brain wants to cue up, the smell of a boxing gym. And for those of you that are boxing fans out there, we could do some sort of 80s nostalgia boxing podcast, and we can march everybody through because it was quite a time. This also reminds me, I think I mentioned this once before on one of the shows, as we're doing, this is going to be great because it's going to be on the cutting room floor. No one's ever going to hear this except those of you that are hanging out here right now. But if you have not seen it, the Olympics, I know not everybody is a big fan of watching the Olympics. However, if you like boxing and you have not seen the middleweight gold medal bout between Heber Sousa from Brazil and Kishniak, I can't remember his first name, from the Ukraine, it is one of the best fights you will ever see. I won't spoil it any further than that. Just go ahead and check it out. Make about 15 minutes. You can probably find it on YouTube. While I'm riffing on boxing, let's see, can someone shed light on why boxing Sarthak says boxing popularity waned over the years? I think part of it, Sarthak, is after Mike Tyson and that short period when there was Riddick Bowe and Razor Ruddock and some other guys in the heavyweight, there just hasn't been that marquee heavyweight. I don't really know if there's been a champion in the last 10 or 20 years. Now, I haven't paid as much attention to boxing since I've been consumed with football since my job. But I don't know that there's been a heavyweight champion or any champion that they can really market in this compelling way that Mike Tyson gave them when they pulled a lot of people back into the sport. And then, as Jason says, MMA. I think a lot of the audience for boxing is now moved over to MMA. MMA has really captured the zeitgeist right now, where boxing is maybe an echo of something that is a less complex, which maybe makes it more authentic, hand-to-hand combat. But why do trees go so well with coffee? Wes asks. I mean, if I really just start rambling, folks, I'm going to say a lot of things. I don't want to say I'm going to regret them, but I might get phone calls from people asking why I told the story with them and things like that. Wes, I would just say trees go well with just about everything. And CJ Rich says boxing's still thriving. And, boxing's thriving certainly in that it's absolutely, there's still lots of compelling rivalries. There's lots of compelling fights out there. It just doesn't have the same grip on the culture, American culture, that it had in the past. And again, I'll take a walk down memory lane to in the 80s. The big fights used to be on closed circuit television and shown in theaters. And I remember my parents, my stepdad and my mom, dressing up to go to the Coyle Theater in Charleroi, PA, to watch. It might have been the Hagler-Hearns fight. And those fights were as big as the Super Bowl. And sometimes there was more than one in a year. The Hearns, any combination of Hearns, Duran, Leonard, Hagler. Rest in peace, Marvin Hagler. I know I told the story before. So moving right along. Thanks, everybody. This is fun. This, in some ways, this is way too close to like something I probably would have liked to always do. Maybe I should just walk around all day and just share my thoughts with everybody all the time. Max Fritch asks, any good documentary recommendations? I'll say this. If you all haven't watched Once Upon a Time in Queens, it came out last week, the 4-part 30 for 30 on the 86 Mets. Wow. Wow. It was really special. And some of it, I wasn't a Mets fan growing up, but how could you not like the 86 Mets? I was a Pirates fan, and the 86 Mets that year, they would just beat the Pirates' brains in. I do remember one of my great memories as a kid, though, was being in right field and being part of a Darryl chant. You know, it's one of those things, it's like a little merit badge. But one of the beautiful things about the 86 Mets documentary, if you haven't watched it, is that there were moments where you could see players talking to each other and we didn't really know what happened. And the people involved unpacked those moments for us. And I'll just say Keith Hernandez was unbelievable. He just had some sort of touch where whatever he would say to you right before a key moment, you should just listen to him. And there was so many great things that were unpacked. They did an excellent job weaving in the culture of New York City at the time, the history of the Mets, some of the individual stories. I know there's the Doc and Darryl 30 for 30, which is also excellent. I haven't seen a bad 30 for 30. So I would definitely make sure to cue that one up. And as Jason is talking about, sports documentary is another one that I've seen in the last couple of years that was just gripping, was the Diego Maradona documentary. And to think that the Maradona one, even if you don't care about soccer, you don't even know who Diego Maradona is, the incredible thing about that one is it's a lot of real footage shot in the 80s from these handheld cameras. And it really gave you a sense of being there and understanding the frenzy that was created around him. I think for a time he was probably the biggest public figure in the world. Not as big as Cecil Lammey, though.
Ha! That was so weird. It was very bizarre. It was what a long, strange trip it's been, right?
This has been Waking Up with Sigmund Bloom. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming.
Okay, how far did you get, brother? Like, let me know.
Oh, I just was talking about sports documentaries, and I told a story about the boxing gym.
Wait a second, you didn't do 49ers and Eagles?
Oh, I'll do 49ers and Eagles. Okay. Well, I was waiting for you. It just doesn't feel right to do it without you.
Oh,
you know?
Okay. Yeah, no,
it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right.
I just need to know. Look at all this extra stuff you get by watching us on YouTube, because I'm clipping all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
You listen to the show, you're like, what a
this
smooth.
Is great.
It was Monday morning, not Sunday night, but what a smooth
You wouldn't even notice the difference. Well, and I think that the whole fantasy football podcast sector industry is really just all keeping each other company. We're all lonely. I'm not as lonely now that I see your face again and I see our chat room. San Francisco, Philadelphia. See, this game, we looked at week one and we said, well, San Francisco played Detroit, Philadelphia played Atlanta. We didn't learn anything about these teams. What did we learn about them in this game? It's a defensive battle. In San Francisco, you thought Baltimore's backfield was in bad shape. San Francisco's backfield said, hold my beer. Because you saw Elijah Mitchell had a touchdown wiped off the board. And what we can learn out of this game is that they really do want to give Mitchell the chance to be the lead back. But he gets hurt. Trey Sermon comes in, has a decent carry. Then he gets hurt, brain injury. Jermichael Hasty doing some passing down work. Maybe he's going to get some work. He has an ankle injury. Enter Trenton Cannon. We'll see San Francisco playing Green Bay next week. Usually a game when they have their way with the Green Bay defense, at least in the running game. Jimmy Garoppolo, and see, when we're talking about Jimmy Garoppolo, what we're asking is he doing enough to hold off Trey Lance? And in this game, he did. He got that rushing touchdown after the Mitchell touchdown was wiped off the board. He had that passing touchdown to Jawan Jennings, and he did enough. But we're going to respect the Philadelphia running defense. They really eventually caught up to the Atlanta running game last week, and they held the San Francisco running game in check. It was a 16-play, 9-minute drive, though, that Garoppolo finished, which really swung this game. Deebo Samuel's still the number one. Brandon Ayuk might be out there, but he's not going to be a part of the passing game. And George Kittle, we kind of could see this coming. If the team can stay in the lead, Kittle might not be a big part of that. So San Francisco 2-0. They eke out a win on the back of their defense, and they're going to need the defense and the offense probably next week against Green Bay.
What is Philadelphia going to need then? Because it's Jalen Hurts left and Jalen Hurts right. Hurts with 190 yards passing, 82 yards on the ground, 1 rushing touchdown. Quez Watkins, whatever, 2 for 117, including the 91-yarder. Need some more of that. Dallas Goedert, 2 for 24. I know my fantasy team needs more of that. Hey, and you had Sanders. I got Kenneth Gainwell off the waiver wire. We got 14 yards rushing and 18 yards receiving. What? I'm happy to put in Devontae Smith, that speed over the top. 2 for 16 in this one. Zach Ertz, I can play through it. I can play through the pain, coach. Well, 1 for 6. Okay. Eagles got a little flash bloom, but not much substance.
Yeah, we were asking because it was Atlanta and was a lot of short passing. Well, is Jalen Hurts for real? Well, from this game, no. You did have the 91-yard pass to Quez Watkins. And it's hard to have a 91-yarder that doesn't score, right, Cease? I looked it up. It was the sixth longest pass play in NFL history that was not a touchdown. The longest was Ahmad Rashad. It was back when he was still going by Bobby Moore. 98 yards. That's the longest you can do, man. You can't have longer than 98 yards and not score. Mm-hmm. So Quez Watkins, he's not going to go away. And that's the thing with this passing game. It's not going to be that robust of a passing game. And Quez isn't going away. Smith comes back to earth. Goddard gets tackled close to the goal line, but there's not much there. There's not much there for Ertz. This is just not going to be a passing game. Jalen Reagor had a touchdown wiped off the board because he stepped out before he caught it. But there was a lot of missed opportunities. After that 91-yard pass, you know what they called on 4th and goal, Cease? The Philly special. Everybody knows the Philly special now. You can't do that anymore. I know it's your Nick Sirianni says, I'm going to take the Philly special for a spin. No, don't. Leave it in the trophy museum. Okay?
You did it once. Right.
Yeah. Jalen Hurts gets that sneak touchdown. And see, it's the same thing, right? So for fantasy, and this is one of the things about fantasy football that's really terrible, honestly. Because for fantasy, Jalen Hurts is good for me. But for real football, you saw a little more of the flaws or the limitations. We've got to give some credit to San Francisco's defense, but see, they were without their top 2 corners in this one. Ferret out for the year, Mosley. They're talking about bringing back Richard Sherman. So you would thought there would be more. Miles Sanders, you're still going to keep playing him. His ADP was probably about right. He's just a low ceiling running back 2. Now Philadelphia goes to Dallas, and we're right back where we were last year with the NFC East. I have no idea who the best team in this division is, and but after what Dallas did this week, we have to say maybe it's Dallas, but if Philadelphia can beat them, then maybe it's Philadelphia, and we're going to ride the merry-go-round again.
And here we go again. Do you know what Dallas and Philadelphia have in common? Both of their quarterbacks were at the Senior Bowl.
Oh, there you go.
There you go, Lester. And I was there for all of it. And as we move on, is this a time where we should just invite Jason in and Jason can do this part? Right?
Sure.
We could just
bask in it.
Bask in the glow of your Raiders. There's Jason Cornell, pot stoner degenerate up there in Greeley as the Raiders at 2-0, 26-17 over the Steelers, the most fraudulent team in the NFL. The Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm a Steelers fan. Derek Carr, 382 yards, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. Henry Ruggs, 5 for 113 and a touch. Foster Moreau, who's always been a nice tight end, good Y tight end, Bloom. Mm-hmm. He gets the other touchdown there as well. Darren Waller, 5 for 65. It's enough. It's enough. I know you wanted that Moreau touchdown too, but whatever. You have Darren Waller. I'm starting Dallas Goedert every week. You've got Darren Waller. You're fine. Hunter Renfrow, 5 for 57. Kenyon Drake, 5 for 46 as a receiver. Brian Edwards, 3 for 40 in this one. Peyton Barber, 13 for 32. Yeah. And Kenyon Drake, 7 for 9 as a rusher. So why run the ball when you can't? And you don't have Josh Jacobs, and you could just throw the ball like this and win over the Steelers.
Yeah, you don't have Josh Jacobs. You don't have Denzel Good. You don't have Richie Incognito. You lose Alex Leatherwood during this game. No problem. Derek Carr and this team growing up before our very eyes. Now, we may unpack this game later and say some of this is just, boy, the Steelers aren't going to be able to overcome any deficits without block hunt touchdowns. Darren Waller didn't get a target for, but Darren Waller didn't get a target for 20 minutes, still was okay. Okay, wasn't a big part of the game plan early on. Derek Carr takes the offense on his shoulders. By the way, if you have Brian Edwards, he had a touchdown wiped off the board. You did see Foster Moreau get that touchdown. He's the future for somebody. He's going to be a very good tight end, a very good fantasy tight end one of these days. But what you saw, the Steelers bend but don't break defense at first. Okay, there's a turnover, then TJ Watt gets a sack, so they hold him to a field goal, then TJ Watt gets hurt. They already came into this game without Joe Hayden, without Devin Bush. All right. Late the Steelers are trying to hang in Pittsburgh, and on 3rd and long, you see a beautiful Derek Carr bomb. And I suppose this is the moment you say, this is why you take Henry Ruggs. And I'm not saying that it was the right decision, but this is something that Henry Ruggs did that CeeDee Lamb couldn't do, right? This is something that this speed really was the difference in this game, and Carr was able to harness it. Carr has over 100 passing yards first 2 games, most ever in a 2-game stretch by a Raider quarterback. So, you love seeing this stuff. You love the Raiders story. I know it's only 2 weeks in, but right now this AFC seems wide open, truly wide open. Why not the Raiders? Why not Las Vegas? Why not Derek Carr? Why not Derek Carr finally getting to the point where, he's rated higher among the league than he is among fans? After this game, after these first 2 games, he should be rated pretty highly among fans. Again, facing the Dolphins next week.
Facing the Dolphins next week, and the Steelers facing, I don't know. I don't know what they're facing, but Ben Roethlisberger, 295.
Their own mortality.
1 INT. They're very good. See Sigmund coming through for me. I'm still waking up. 9 for 105 for Deontay Johnson, who always reminded me of Antonio Brown. When Antonio Brown was younger, and Johnson's more Emmanuel Sanders to me, but still the way that Ben would trust AB when he was like the 3rd or 4th guy is the way that Ben trusts Deontay. Deontay, just with those drops last year, let you go, can he still trust him? Well, it's Ben on his final leg. And he's trusting him. 9 for 105. Nice trust. Chase Claypool, 3 for 70. He can always do that. Najee Harris with the receiving touchdown, 5 for 43 and a touch. And then 10 for 38 on the ground. It's not there for him as a runner. Maybe it will be there, but no. Juju Smith-Schuster gets a rushing touchdown. He gets 6 for 41 there as well. The Steelers, this is what they're going to have to deal with when they overcome adversity, is an offense that can't help them overcome said adversity.
It can't. It just can't. Cease. It was nice. The week 1 underdog Steelers rallying behind them was nice, but this team isn't going anywhere with Roethlisberger. This team isn't going anywhere with this offensive line. It just ain't going to happen. Deontay Johnson gets hurt on the last play of the game. They're down by 9. The game is over, and Johnson, they tried to do some, lateral the ball stuff. Johnson gets hurt. The early word is it's not serious. The Steelers are still okay without Johnson. They have James Washington. They're not okay with this offense, though. The upside's not going to be there. Chase Claypool still looks all right, although there was one he had a chance to get that maybe if he'd played the ball better. And see, that's Chase Claypool. Athletically, everything that you want. As far as the actual plays he makes on the ball in the air, the decisions he makes, still a work in progress, but he's a what-the-heck flex every week. Juju Smith-Schuster gets that touchdown on the jet action that's usually Chase Claypool in the red zone, in the goal to go. So it was Juju this time doing good on it. So maybe we would be talking about Claypool a little differently if he got that opportunity. But how many goal line opportunities will this offense have anyway? All right. Roethlisberger's interception was terrible. Again, Watt saved them. You did see Najee Harris. See, we finally had a play where, okay, that's why he's a first-round pick. That looks like a first-round pick. Catching the ball on a short pass, breaking a tackle, showing some speed, diving for the pylon. That was a really nice play. So, just like last week, it's taking amazing individual plays for the Steelers just to put points on the board that aren't field goals. You also have Ben Roethlisberger. See, we're back to old grouchy Ben. Well, what about these formations? I don't know. Ask Matt Canada about that. Huh? So, we thought maybe Roethlisberger's humble, going to play within himself. He's slimmed down. Cincinnati coming, Cease. And this is a gut check game for this team. And I think this is a team coming in with a lot of weight on their shoulders. The Bengals coming in, no one's expecting them to even make the playoffs this year. This is a chance, just like last year when they beat the Steelers, to show, hey, things can get better for the fan base. And how quickly things change in the NFL, emotionally, psychologically. The Raiders could get a big boost, and the Steelers are wondering, is this where this is all headed?
Yeah, this is where it's all headed. And Ben, slim down, still the same old doucher. Sorry, Joe. It's like Step Brothers. It's huge doucher. But anyway, 26-7, Carolina over the Saints. My God, the Saints. My God, Jameis. Come on, dude. A couple of picks from Jameis. Shocker. 111. And then 1 rushing touchdown. Okay. Taysom Hill comes in. Woo! 2 for 16. Alvin Kamara gets 8 for 5. I know it's 17-0 at halftime, but just feed Kamara the ball. More than 4 for 25 as a receiver. I mean, these numbers are just what's our man Jason say? Like, these are rookie numbers. Like, these are rookie numbers, right? Marcus Callaway 2 for 8. Who cares? Deontay Harris, I got something. 1 for 9. Who cares? Juwan Johnson, maybe I should start him. 1 for 23. Who cares? Chris Hogan, who cares? Like, the Saints, who cares? You have Kamara. What are you doing?
Yeah. Well, Sean Payton in his 16-year career with the Saints, the 128 total yards was the lowest in his 16-year career. And is the Carolina Panthers defense a juggernaut? I don't think so. And see, you go back and you say, man, just how limp was the performance from the Packers in week 1 that this New Orleans offense put 38 on them, that Winston threw 5 touchdowns. Because then the question I'm asking is, when do we see Taysom Hill, right? Yeah. When are we going to see Taysom Hill?
When are we going to see Cam Newton?
Sure. Speaking of Cam Newton, again, it's next week, the Patriots. So everything was great. Man, living in New Orleans, the hurricane and everything going on in the city. It's a weight. It's a great weight. And Jameis Winston helped lift that weight. And then this week was a game that everyone wants to forget, including Winston. But you can't have too many more of these games. And you're not playing anybody from this passing game until further notice. And even Alvin Kamara, Cease, I mean, this is bad. There's just not anything in the surroundings here for him. Whether it's Winston or Taysom Hill, you're not seeing a lot of use of him in the passing game. You understand, hey, okay, you don't have Michael Thomas. Traquan Smith's hurt. You have young tight ends. Who's going to help out the passing game? Alvin Kamara. It wasn't there. I don't know what happened. They had 8 coaches out with Koof. 8 coaches out with Koof.
Look at you catch yourself.
There you go. I'm learning. So that part of it, I don't know. Really? Like, you need the coaches there, like all the assistants and position coaches?
And they're still there virtually.
Yeah.
You're watching them on Zoom, so.
And Cease, again, there were some crucial games in week 2 to determine the path of a team's season. With New England up, New Orleans, this is tough. And again, what we're looking at here is how long does the Jameis Winston tenure as the quarterback last? But Carolina is a team, maybe they haven't beaten the caliber of teams that the Raiders have, but they're 2-0, and they get used to next week. So they're thinking, hey, yeah, Matt Rule, just the way I drew it up.
Yeah, Matt Rule, just the way. Well, and again, if we're talking about like Matt Nagy, Matt Rule, and I don't really care for either one of them, but I'm going to take what Matt Rule's doing there with Sam Darnold going 305 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 INTs, because they feed who they're supposed to feed. You have Christian McCaffrey. Feed him 24 for 72 and a rushing touchdown, 5 for 65 as a receiver. Good. Why can't they do that with Kamara? Like, seriously, you have a roster, it's devoid of some talent. Maybe you're not all there. Okay, yeah, feed your guy. Christian McCaffrey. Alvin Kamara should be fed in a similar way. Either way. Anyway, Chuba Hubbard gets in for 8 for 10. I just like Chuba. DJ Moore goes 8 for 79 and a touchdown. Brandon Zylstra, 3 for 44 and a touchdown there as well. Dan Arnold, 3 for 55. If you may be streaming tight ends, Robbie Anderson, 3 for 38. Terrace Marshall, 3 for 17. Ian Thomas, the tight end that you wouldn't stream, 1 for 7 there. So Carolina 2-0, they got to be feeling pretty good, Bloom, and feeling like, well, our strategy is working.
Yeah, everything was easy for Sam Darnold in this one. He just went right up and down the field. Now, you're going to see this offense concentrated around Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore. Interesting, too, that Darnold, despite being reunited with his old teammate Robbie Anderson, he's focused on DJ Moore, and Moore is not giving him any reason to go away from him. You're not going to go with Anderson or Marshall, because you also see, again, the first touchdown of the day, last in the phone book, first in our hearts, he's Brandon Zylstra. Really, can you get ZYL? I know there's our man Zizix from the Fitch scene, but ZY is about as deep as you can get on the list. Gets the first touchdown of the game. Dan Arnold's doing some things. So Sam Darnold is spreading the ball around. The Darnold to D. Arnold connection. Love that. Is Sam Darnold good? There's no Marshawn Lattimore in this one. We're not going to make excuses for the Saints defense, though, because, and again, you have to look at, we watched the Saints-Packers game and we thought we should really just throw this one out. And yeah, we really should just throw this one out because Darnold, the Panthers offense, it looked easy. They used everyone. And again, the Panthers, not necessarily a team people had starting 3-0 and starting 3-0 in a pretty resounding fashion. So the Texans, let's see if the plucky Texans can give them some trouble next week.
See if the plucky Texans can do what the plucky Broncos have done That doesn't make sense. It's a Broncos show, and the Broncos 23, the Jaguars 13. Teddy Bridgewater dealing 328 yards, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. Cortland Sutton, we're back. After that video went viral of him like limping through a drill, like, and I'd had Sutton this week. Is like, okay, you can trust him as a wide receiver 3 flex, and if he blows up on a bench, good. Because now I know he's back. Okay, now you know he's back, and maybe he was on your bench. Probably was. 9 for 159 in this one. Timmy Pats still comes through for you with a touchdown. 3 for 37 and a touch. Noah Fant, 4 for 33 and a touch. Not much else from anyone receiving-wise, but then the backfield. Javonte, 13 for 64. Very good. Catch for 10 yards. Melvin Gordon, 13 for 31. Less good, but still 2 for 38 as a receiver. So the backfield split continues. Bloom, there has been 29 touches this year for Melvin Gordon. There's been 28 touches this year for Javonte Williams. Williams leading the team in carries. Gordon leading the team in touches from the backfield just by 1. But you see, this is truly 50-50. And Vic Fangio, all the spaghetti and meatballs and the pasta every day. Every day. That's your Vic Fangio impression. And, well, Vic is 2-0, and he's feeling himself.
Yeah, and they should be 3-0 facing the Jets next week. The Jags are not going to be a team with maybe an exception or two on an odd afternoon that we're going to learn much about the opponents. But we did learn, like you said, Cortland Sutton, he's back. You can have him back in your lineup. And then that made it less exciting to play. Tim Patrick had a touchdown. KJ Hamler fades back into the background.
Another drop.
Yeah. Noah Fant did okay. But this is Cortland's passing game. And then there's the running back split. And you didn't have a 70-yard touchdown from one of the running backs, so neither of them were really useful plays. Against the Jets next week, they're what-the-heck flexes. See, they're going to be perpetual what-the-heck flexes. If they're not strong plays in these games that you know the Broncos are going to control, then when are you going to feel confident playing them? Only if one of them gets hurt. And, that's part of the reason for the split, right? So you looked at this schedule, 3-0. Maybe we weren't saying Carolina was going to thump New Orleans and end up 3-0, but you saw they also had the Jets and they have the Texans on their schedule. The Broncos needed to go 3-0. Everything is on schedule. And for Jacksonville, see, the plane's still on the runway. We haven't taken off, and if it takes off, I think it might crash.
Yeah, and then you hear the Urban Meyer comments. It's like, come on, really? Just listen to any post-game quote. I know we only have 2, but I was listening to the quotes last night. I was listening to the audio anyway. And it's just like, I don't know about Trevor Lawrence. I don't know. We'll see. Hey, 118 and a touchdown. The first drive was really good. First drive for Jacksonville, they go in, they march down. Was it like 83 yards or whatever the number was, Bloom? But like they march down. Marvin Jones Jr. with a receiving touchdown, 6 for 55 on the day. I'm not even going to go through what anybody else did. They don't use Visca the right way, and I think Visca might be hurt as well. James Robinson, 11 for 47. They're not using him enough for the right way. And, this is 10-7 at half. Why doesn't James Robinson have 24 carries? And then Trevor Lawrence, you're going to have a rookie throw 33 times against Vic Fangio? Like, okay, Urban Meyer, it does not make sense. Chewbacca defense, like anything he's doing, man, it does not. Why would a Wookiee live on Endor with a bunch of 2-foot-tall Ewoks? It does not make sense, Urban Meyer.
No, it doesn't. See, this isn't going to be one of those, this year, we're going to sort it out. That doesn't feel like that at all.
In the next
year.
No.
Urban Meyer's not in it for that.
Crap.
It's this is going to be a forgettable chapter for this team, and it has a lot of forgettable chapters. Trevor Lawrence, we were talking about your older daughter, taking her off to college and giving her advice, because we're all naive at different points in our life, and certainly you would say that NFL makes rookie quarterbacks look naive, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, no one's giving Trevor Lawrence any help here. He looks like he's just out there to flail. It's terrible. And this is just like Zach Wilson, where you say you're going to ruin him. You're going to ruin Trevor Lawrence, the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. I know there's not much there for fantasy. Now, next week they're going to face Arizona. So if Trevor Lawrence, because the garbage time, that's what worked for week 1. There'll probably be some garbage time here. The Jacksonville's defense isn't going to put them in any good game scripts. There was a good first drive, and Jamal Agnew had a kickoff return for a touchdown, and that was it. Okay, James Robinson's still the lead back. He's about as good as one of your Denver backs, but without a help of a 70-yard touchdown. Chanel Visca had those drops. He's banged up. So maybe if Visca's out, then you feel a little better playing Marvin Jones, who had the touchdown. Marvis Jones. You feel a little better playing DJ Chark, but there's just nothing here. This is as bad as you could have feared if you're a Jacksonville fan. Arizona's coming. Time for Kyler Murray to put up some highlights in this one. And for Trevor Lawrence, you look at the trajectory of a career. And how can it possibly, these young quarterbacks, we see it all the time, the rookie quarterbacks, the young quarterbacks, it's imprinting. Whatever happens to them earlier in their career gets imprinted.
Yep.
What's getting imprinted, I was telling stories while you were gone, Cease. People that are listening to the podcast have no idea what I'm talking about. And, there are stories from my childhood that are starting to make ways that I react to things that I'm not even aware of as an adult make more sense. And that's kind of what you have with Trevor Lawrence. He's growing up in a dysfunctional household. Okay. He's growing up in a place where he doesn't have any models or anything to imprint a positive model for him. Now we're seeing Sam Darnold, we just talked about, doing okay, getting out of his dysfunctional household. But I think for Lawrence, it's not going to get any better.
With Lawrence and with every rookie quarterback, you need that imprinting and you need that mother's milk. You need the good nutrition and everything for a young growing body. And you just don't get that with Urban Meyer. Let's move on from Meyer's milk and go to Vikings and Cardinals. I feel like I should apologize to Joe for this entire show.
No.
This makes me smile though, because Kyler Murray, 34-33, the Kyler Murray Cardinals over Minnesota and KJ Osborne. I wish I had KJ Osborne instead of Marcus Callaway. I'll say that. 5 for 91 and a touch. Justin Jefferson 6 for 65 and a touch. Adam Thielen 6 for 39 and a touch. And Kirk Cousins threw 3 of them. I just mentioned them. 244 yards. Dalvin Cook is amazing. 22 for 131 in this one. Couple catches, 17 yards, and that's what they need, right? Hey, you need a tight end. Nah, you got Dalvin Cook and you got this trio of receivers. You're more than fine.
Yeah, their offense is fine. And Ryan Bozer, who I've enjoyed interacting with for a long time, and I think a few other Vikings fans even said, hey, you're burying Mike Zimmer a little early, burying this team a little early. Maybe we watched Cincinnati, and it wasn't exactly that impressive that they had to go to overtime against Cincinnati. But this was an impressive game for this offense, an impressive game for this team. And this is another team that we can say punching their way out of the corner. There's some teams that came in 0-1. You looked at their matchup this week and you thought 0-2 is coming, and they weren't willing to accept that. And Kirk Cousins did everything he could have. You kind of feel for Cousins here because he did everything that he could have for them to win this game against a very good Cardinals team. But in echoes of Gary Anderson, of Blair Walsh, Greg Joseph, probably his last attempt as a Viking, missing a 37-yarder that would have won the game, should have won the game. Cousins with this defense, and this week it's Kyler Murray, so we can't completely hold it against the Vikings defense. But no, this is not going to be a top half of the league defense. Cousins is going to be throwing a lot. Jefferson, Thielen, and KJ Osborne with the long touchdown here. We'll be talking about him on the waiver wire show. And a gutsy performance from Dalvin Cook. Gutsy. 2 different times in this game, it looked like he was out. And he came back in and ran with all that same energy. I'll say this, Cease. Dalvin Cook doesn't get enough press. Maybe it's playing up in Minnesota. He does not get enough press as a player that just has that indomitable spirit and competitiveness. And I don't care if this team was 0-16 going into week 17. Cook would still play that hard. And he was a reason that this team stayed in this game, actually jumped out to lead in this game. And it could have been a signature win because, see, we're going to look at the NFC North. Now, we'll see. I mean, again, we're not going to learn anything about Aaron Rodgers tonight because it's Detroit. We saw them get thumped by the Saints, who got thumped by the Panthers. The NFC North's wide open. The Justin Fields Bears could win it. This Vikings team could still, the Detroit's not going to win it. So it's not total. It's 3/4 wide open. So,
watch Detroit win tonight. We can learn about Aaron Rodgers if he looks bad against Detroit.
Right. So you just feel for the Vikings because, this is a game that should have been a signature win for them. They did everything they needed to do. Kirk Cousins did everything they needed to do. Instead, it's Kyler Murray just smiling at the end. What? Me worry? We had it all along.
Doesn't worry at all. Just goes out there and he's dealing. Throws a couple of picks. Doesn't care. Goes out there and he's dealing. And that's a sign of a great quarterback, where you're just going to slough off the bad plays. You're going to distribute the football and use the new guys. Rondell Moore. There was a Moore we should have all been paying attention to. Now, like Visca Bloom, and I hate to put this on Rondell, but we're going to tell the truth on this show. Rondell was hurt a lot in college, but he also was one of the most, I mean, seriously, like 47-inch vertical. What was his vertical? It was crazy.
Yeah.
Just incredible. Outrageous athlete. Just quickness, sickness with a quickness. He's got everything: explosion, speed, hands, concentration, body control. He's got it all. He just doesn't stay healthy. So enjoy it, because your window might be small. Hopefully it's the forever. But Rondell Moore certainly made his presence known with that 77-yarder, 7 for 114 in that touch. DeAndre Hopkins, of course, nuking it, done 454 in a touch. AJ Green looks like 2015 AJ Green. I don't know, 3 for 44 in a touch. Max Williams, they're using tight ends, 7 for 94. Christian Kirk, 3 for 65. It's enough if you picked them up. Murray with the rushing touchdown. Running backs don't do anything here, but Arizona, all they do is win and go 2-0.
Yeah, a backdoor, like they sneak in for the win. But what you see here is maybe the defense not as impressive as it was against Tennessee, but Kyler Murray, you're always in it with Murray, just demoralizing, truly demoralizing to play against if you're a defense.
You can't do anything against him.
He does things that you would tell quarterbacks, don't do that. Don't ever do that.
Yeah,
and
don't
it's a
reverse your
77-yard
field
touchdown.
And run around. And
right. Don't retreat. Don't do any of this stuff.
Your body. Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter. I mean, one of the things I think that has been underrated about Murray, we've talked a lot about his athleticism as a runner, his quickness, but his arm talent. It's not Patrick Mahomes, but if it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes, we would be gushing about some of these throws that he makes off of these odd platforms, throwing the ball, and having the field vision. And that's one of the things about these asymmetrical quarterbacks that face defenses in a mode that defenses are not trained to shut down. Kyler Murray knows that when he escapes from the pocket, sometimes prematurely, sometimes just to like find some more green to operate, that he's looking for that deep shot. He's looking for that big play, and defenses are just trying to react in real time to the new information and the new terms of engagement with Kyler Murray. So yeah, he's going to be the number one fantasy quarterback this year as long as he's healthy. Rondell Moore actually had a touchdown wiped off the board by a penalty, but it was also a fumble. Nick Vigil in there because Anthony Barr's hurt. Nick Vigil had a pick six. Nick Vigil had a fumble recovery that was wiped off the board because he couldn't get 2 feet in. I didn't know you could get 2 feet in for a fumble recovery. I thought, I don't know, NFL rule book. You can get lost in it. But Rondell Moore, the headline here is, he looks like freshman year Purdue Rondell Moore against NFL players. So he has to stay healthy. But wow, a steal. Because if you're getting that Rondell Moore is a top 15, top 20 pick. Otherwise, Nuke, and we did see Nuke have those 2 touchdowns in week 1, but he's not going to get the 15 target games like he got. Not with Rondell Moore out there. Not with Christian Kirk, who had a nice deep catch again late, even though he didn't come through. So AJ Green, I think, had a fumble in this one. He also had that touchdown. The running game, you're still going to keep Edmonds in as a flex or a low-end running back too for PPR. James Conner, we're still waiting for those touchdowns. This is going to be, the Tampa Bay, Arizona offenses are going to produce a lot of points. Will any of them ever go to running backs? Tune in next week to find out. Tune in next week to see Arizona beat up on Jacksonville.
That's right. Lester, why doesn't Kyler get any of the grandpa boom rate that Lamar gets?
Oh, that's the conversation that we can't get on the show. Yeah.
Show on that. We could. Not on this show, but on a,
let's just say, oh man. See, if Matt Waldman was here, Matt Waldman would just jump in and say, I'm going to go ahead and say it. But we're doing a recap show.
Yeah, we're doing a recap show. We'll recap it, baby. But just everyone think on that. Resonate, ruminate, whatever, something 8. How about this? You want to eat in your fantasy league, then you get the Footballguys League Dominator. Check out our Footballguys app. It's on the mobile store. Yay. Thank you guys. Also for commenting and rating us. I was looking at our comments and our ratings last week. Thank you guys for downloading our Footballguys mobile app. You love the show. You want to support the show. Well, then go to your app store, Apple Store, Google Play Store, whatever you got, and go there and you use your draft dominator to draft your team. Now you use the league dominator to dominate your league with your team. That we help. And hey, save time, worry less, right? You go out there, you got stuff to do. You've got the life. We don't. I'm watching Broncos and Jaguars in the Portland airport yesterday. Okay. Instead of sleeping or enjoying time with family, I was watching Broncos Jaguars for you. Anyway, for me as well. But we save time, worry less. It's footballguys.com and check out our mobile app. Bloom, we got 4 more games left. Mm-hmm. And because we're doing this Monday morning, we get to do the Sunday night game, which was fantastic. So let's get to it. Falcons, Buccaneers, 48-25, the final score. The Buccaneers with the win. No issues there. Issues with Matt Ryan. 3 interceptions, couple of touchdowns. Okay, touchdowns are Cordell Patterson and Calvin Ridley, whatever. Kyle Pitts, 5 for 73. It's enough. It's enough in the week that you may not have trusted him after week 1. Mike Davis isn't doing anything. And of course, you get down in this one, you're not going to run the ball. And Davis is a guy you want to run when you're up. Cordell Patterson with a rushing touchdown. Maybe you had him as a what that flex. Maybe. He also had that receiving touchdown, like I said. So let's talk about the Falcons side and just the problems with Matt Ryan. We regularly say it with Ben, right? Is Ben done? Yeah. Is Matt Ryan done?
I'd rather have Matt Ryan than Ben Roethlisberger. I'll say that. Actually, in this game, Tampa jumped out to a lead, and Ryan brought them all the way back to 28-25, and then there was a couple of defensive touchdowns by Mike Edwards, and that was that. You know, you feel like with this Tampa team, they're so casual. Teams shouldn't – you have to go back to like the Cowboys of the 90s, right, Cease, to see a team that was this casual about winning. Because they really did let Atlanta back into this game after the Eagles dominated Atlanta in Atlanta, but you never felt like Tampa was getting tight at all as that was happening. You know, it's like the little brother, big brother matchup, or even when the little brother thinks he's going to win because he's at the last bucket and he's going to finally beat the big brother. Big brother's like, nah, but block, Dikembe, and it's over. So with Matt Ryan, at least what you're seeing is some viability for Ridley, some viability for Pitts. And that's about it. Russell Gage gets hurt in this one, so maybe we'll see a little more Olamide Zaccheaus, not as much Hayden Hurst. The big story for fantasy here, though, and see, this is why we don't like taking those running backs that we're taking in the 5th round or so, because they're getting touches by default. Like it wasn't the team's plan to use them, or maybe in case it was, but it's like, is that really your plan? Because Cordell Patterson's better than Mike Davis. And that's not to say that Mike Davis is this massive disappointment. It's just it took this Falcons team and Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith just uses what he has, right? Well, in this case, he's using Cordell Patterson, using him as a receiver. And I forget who was that said it, Cease, but if we're talking about Derrick Henry's running style or what Derrick Henry can do and thinking about Arthur Smith, Cordell Patterson could probably do a better Derrick Henry impression than Mike Davis. So we're going to be talking about Patterson on the waiver wire show. This is a split backfield, and it's trending towards Patterson. And Patterson getting the running back. And there were some running back receptions for Mike Davis, so he wasn't totally a bust. Kyle Pitts, at least you were seeing that incredible. He's an optical illusion player, Cease. He might be the optical illusion player, where you watch him and you just have to rub your eyes and say, wait, how can he accelerate like that at that size? That doesn't make sense. It's coming, folks. It's coming for Pitts. Maybe it's coming. Maybe a win is coming for Atlanta because they face the Giants next week.
Maybe a win's coming for Tom Brady in another Super Bowl. It's Vegas, right? Is it in Vegas this year? I don't know. So. Anyway, yeah, whatever. Brady, 5 touchdowns. So Mike Evans gets a couple. Rob Gronkowski gets a couple. Chris Godwin gets 1. 75, 62, and 39 yards receiving, respectively. Look it up. Leonard Fournette, 52 yards on the ground. Ronald Jones gets the start. Whatever. 27 yards. Brady lost a fumble. Not that matters. Fournette did fumble, but didn't lose it. Antonio Brown, 1 for 17. Hey, is Antonio Brown going to be the... No. Well, not in this game anyway.
Not in this one, no. No, and it was actually Brady forcing the ball to Brown early while Gronk is running free. And then I'll make it easier on myself. I'll just throw it to Gronk. And Gronk is going to set some sort of touchdown record at this second chapter of his career because this is how easy it is for this team, at least against Atlanta. Tom Brady's gonna break records. They're not going to play much to the running backs in the red zone. They don't need to. Mike Evans gets better. He got a little dinged up in this game, but he gets the touchdown. Obviously, Leonard Fournette's ahead of Ronald Jones, no matter who gets the first touch, but Leonard Fournette still, what the heck, flex. Even when Gronk scores twice, even when Evans scores twice, Godwin still gets his touchdown. Giovanni Bernard, a non-factor here. We can see how this offense is forming. It's Gronk, it's Evans, it's Godwin. In your offense, in your lineup every single week. Gronkowski, it's possible that he's number one tight end right now. And some of it could be just because it was Dallas and Atlanta. Next week, the Rams. Those things will get tougher for this Tampa offense. We'll get a little better measure of just how good they are. But they're beaten up on the easy defenses to beat up on. Now here's a test. Get your popcorn out.
Get your popcorn ready for Dallas and the Chargers. 20-17 was the final score. And this is the type of game that'll keep the Chargers from winning the AFC West. You know what I mean? Like, the Chargers are a really good team. You just can't lose these type of contests. Dallas, trying to prove they're a good team, has to win, and that's what they did with Dak Prescott throwing for 237 yards, no touchdowns in this one. CeeDee Lamb, 8 for 81. Blake Jarwin, 3 for 37. Amari Cooper, 3 for 24. Cedric Wilson, waiver wire, 2 for 20. Tony Pollard leads the way with 109 yards and a rushing touchdown. We all know that Pollard was good. Just takes time and opportunity. He got that 3 for 31 as a receiver as well. Zeke, 71 yards on the ground, 1 rushing touchdown, also 2 for 26 as a receiver. So the Cowboys win. No passing touchdowns from Dak. The running back situation's changing, and fantasy GMs have to respond.
Winning in spite of Mike McCarthy. The Cowboys would be better off if McCarthy got lost on the way to the stadium and they could just play without him. It's Dak's team. It's a stirring win. And see, we're not that far from the Cowboys being 2-0 with wins at Tampa and at the Chargers.
Yep.
So, and this team came in, they had to move Micah Parsons to defensive end. The defense, which wasn't in great shape to begin with, already having problems. But how about them Cowboys? And Chargers had their fair share of unforced errors. We'll talk about that. But Dak Prescott, a little quieter in this one, but maybe in a recipe that's going to result in more wins, not for your fantasy team, but for this team, as they do have a very good running back combination. And that's the thing. I hope you got out of Ezekiel Elliott's positions after week 1, because you're not going to be able to get out of them now. This is a committee. It should be a committee. If anything, it should favor Pollard. Elliott doesn't look bad, but he's not the Zeke of 2 or 3 years ago. That Zeke we're not ever going to see again. He's past the peak of his career. It was something we suspected after watching him last year. Hey, he can still offer a lot of pass blocking. No points for pass blocking in fantasy leagues. Pollard has more juice. Pollard should be getting, if not an even split, a little bit tilted towards him. Pollard is the better play going forward. Amari Cooper got a little banged up in this one, didn't do as much. So we're going to watch that again, though. See, this oscillation, it's enough to make you nauseous that, this is going to be a pass offense that runs through Dak just like it did. The offense is going to be all Dak. The balance of this offense, because they do have the offensive line that they didn't have last year when everyone was hurt, gives them the ability to have a more methodical offense. Also, by the way, Blake Jarwin is back. Maybe not back in your lineup, maybe even not back on a fantasy roster, but ahead of Dalton Schultz, as things should be. So 2-0, 0-2, 1-1. It could have been any of those 3 for Dallas, but none of it really matters because what they do within the division is going to determine whether they go to the playoffs. And then if they go to the playoffs, despite having Mike McCarthy as head coach, they're probably going to feel like they can play with anybody because they can.
Yes.
Can they play with the Eagles? We'll see next week.
But can they get out coached by anybody? Yes, they can.
What's the coach your way out of a paper bag? Yeah, that's tough. But it was a double ply paper bag. Come on, give me a little bit of leeway.
Yeah, of course, Mike McCarthy's brown bagging it. Let's talk about the Chargers and 1 touchdown, 2 INTs for Justin Herbert. Touchdown goes to Mike Williams. He's playing the X. 7 for 91 and a touchdown. Keenan Allen, 4 for 108 because that's what he does. Austin Eckler, 54 yards on the ground and then 9 for 61 as a receiver. I got Jared Cook in my lineup. Well, 3 for 28 is what you got. And then, we're watching the backfield continue to just go round and round. But this team wants to pass and live through Herbert's arm. And the kid's throwing a couple of picks. You're going to have this type of result.
It's another team that could be 0-2. They could be 2-0. Instead they're 1-1. Antonio Gibson fumble really helping him out in week 1. You would think Justin Herbert would have an easy time of it against this Dallas offense. Then you get to the red zone. Rich Rebar, love you, Lord Reeves, putting the stat out there, Cease, in the red zone. Herbert's already taken 3 sacks. The whole rest of the NFL has only taken 2 sacks in the red zone, and Herbert has taken 3. I think he's 1 for 7 on red zone pass attempts so far. So that's it. I mean, a few mistakes is all it takes. Not a mistake if you drafted Mike Williams. He's still a focal point of this pass offense. He may be as valuable as Keenan Allen as long as he stays healthy. And then you also had, of course, Austin Eckler getting back involved in the passing game. So that was just a 1-week blip that he didn't get any targets last week. Don't worry about that. Cease. Stop me if you heard this one before. There were a lot of different ways the Chargers could have won this game, and they didn't. Right? You had a beautiful Donald Parham touchdown wiped off the board by a penalty. You had a Jared Cook touchdown wiped off the board by a penalty. So while they're licking their wounds and smarting from this loss, they have to face Kansas City next week.
Good luck with that. Okay, Titans in Seattle. We wanted to learn about Tennessee and how would they respond after week 1. They responded. Ryan Tannehill, 347 yards, a touchdown to Julio. Oh, wait, no, that was taken away. No touchdowns, no INTs. Julio goes 6 for 128, and the should have been touchdown. A.J. Brown, 3 for 43. You're fine. You have A.J. Brown. Derrick Henry, you're fine. You have Derrick Henry. 3 rushing touchdowns, 182 yards as a runner, 6 catches, 55 yards as a receiver. My God, that is dominant. And outside of Derek, Julio, and AJ, you're not really looking at anybody else other than Ryan. And, well, they get the win, 33-30 in overtime over Seattle.
What a stirring win. This game looked like the Titans were dead in the water. It looked like they had no chance of stopping the Russell Wilson deep air show. Nothing was really working on offense except for Julio Jones. And then Derrick Henry got going. And Cease, I know, there's analytics attempts to say there's no such thing as momentum and stuff like that, right? As Derrick Henry goes, so goes this team. Not Ryan Tannehill. Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry said, I got this. He said, I got this. One big run lit the fuse for this team, and they were back. Julio Jones is back. The biggest fantasy headline here, other than Derrick Henry's back, so this offense is viable again, is that Julio Jones is back. Should have been a touchdown. It was just overturned by Julio's heard all of us after week 1. He's fine. He's safe in line. So it was A.J. Brown, actually, with the drops. And he's joking about it. I think he said someone in his family told him he couldn't even coof on Sunday.
I love that you catch yourself, Bloom. Thank you.
Yeah, well, and just that A.J. Brown can joke about the kind of day he had. And he can joke about it because Tennessee sees they had this was like Minnesota, man, where we're not going to go 0-2, like the Colts. There are teams, and we're going to talk about the Ravens. There are teams, and see, I look to the coaches. I look at Frank Reich, and I look at Mike Zimmer. And in this one, I look at Mike Vrabel. And we can certainly, Vrabel and Mike Tomlin, maybe it's Mike's, right? They have some of the same flaws as game managers. Tomlin punted with the Steelers down more than a score on 4th and 1. But Vrabel gets his guys on the same page, and they fight. And this team just refused to give up in this game. You see the desperation. You see the fantasy value. They come back in overtime. They get a drive going, have to punt the ball away, get the ball back, finish this thing. And now, remember, the AFC South's a 2-team race. Okay, sorry, Texans and David Culley. It's Indy, it's Tennessee. Well, that's who plays next week.
Yeah, and then we'll see who comes out on top. Seattle side, Russell Wilson, couple of touchdowns, 343 yards passing. Tyler Lockett providing tremendous value, 8 for 178 and a touch. Freddie Swain, 5 for 95 and a touch. DK Metcalf, 6 for 53. You're fine. The Gerald Everett pick is not working out. 8 for 1, or excuse me, 8. No. 1 for 3. 3 kind of looked like an 8. Anyway, Chris Carson, he ate. There's a transition for you with a couple of touchdowns, 13 for 31 on the ground, but those TDs help, and that's what counts. But Seattle falls short in the end.
Yeah, not much going in the running game, but Carson gets the touchdowns. Tyler Lockett finding himself behind the defense once a game. DK Metcalf get a little banged up in this one, but he's going to get his. Not much otherwise, not much for the tight ends. Freddie Swain getting behind the defense. It's Russell Wilson, getting behind the defense. An easy long touchdown for Freddie Swain. And even though it seems like those are flukish plays, they're not flukes whenever they're Russell Wilson, but it wasn't enough. Wasn't enough here. And really interesting matchup as Seattle goes to Minnesota next week. More of that Kirk Cousins air show. And we look across that NFC West, Cease. Only one of the teams has a loss now, and it is Seattle because they couldn't finish this game.
They could not finish, but we can finish on a high note with a game that, again, if it was a normal week, we would not have talked about, but we would have been you would have been tweeting about it, Bloom. I would have been avoiding Twitter, but I would have been maybe watching a couple things, right? A little reaction time. That's when Twitter is fun, is when you can get that live in-game reaction. Ravens and Chiefs, incredible classic, 36-35. The final score, Ravens get the win. Let's talk about Pat Mahomes first. 343, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT in this one. Travis Kelce, touchdown, 7 for 109 and a touch. Byron Pringle, 2 for 63 and a touch. Stop trying to make McCall Hardman a thing. 5 for 55. That's better than you thought. Demarcus Robinson, 3 for 46 and a touch. Tyreek Hill, 3 for 14. Let's get into that. And then Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Does anyone really trust him, like, ever? Darrell Williams had a rushing touchdown. Okay, cool. It's fine. But let's talk about this Kansas City offense that couldn't find a way to get over the top, but got very close to that.
Yeah, well, it wasn't for a Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumble. It wasn't for Patrick Mahomes maybe trying to do too much. Sometimes we applaud the quarterbacks who just get rid of the ball in some way as they're about to get sacked to avoid the loss. Well, that one lost the game, really. I think Kansas City had this one not necessarily under control because we'll talk more about the Ravens, but the Ravens had a ton of fight in this one. And Patrick Mahomes, even though the numbers look good, and remember, the Ravens are without Marcus Peters, don't have that much of a pass rush. Odafe Owe says, wait a second. And that's one of the things for the Ravens, where we're talking about when the Ravens defense was on the field. It was Owe, the rookie, one of their first-round picks, forcing that fumble on Edwards-Helaire, icing the game. And you saw also Anthony Averett. And Cease, this is just, it's like Hydra with these cornerbacks for the Ravens. You cut off Marcus Peters' head, and Anthony Averett, his sprouts, he shut down Tyreek Hill. Straight up. You say, ooh, well, learn the name, Anthony Averett. This team has something. You see Steelers and wide receivers. How about, because remember, Darius Williams, who's a number 1 for the Rams, or could be a number 1 for another team, number 2 because of Daniel Ramsey, who will be a number 1 for another team next year. He was originally a Ravens pickup. So they have an eye for cornerbacks. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, it's not going to happen. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is Myles Gaskin without the receptions. You think this offense is going to elevate him? Darrell Williams comes in and gets the touchdown. Not getting opportunities in the passing game, which is why we thought they drafted him, right? You watched Edwards-Helaire with Joe Burrow at LSU, and you thought, wow, you can do so many things with him in the passing game. They're not barely doing anything, less than they were doing last year. I'm not sure if we're going to play him next week against the Chargers, depending on what options you have. The other thing I want to point out here is, again, Mahomes' numbers look good. One of those was a tremendous Travis Kelce run after catch where he weaved through the defense. Another one was Byron Pringle looking like what we thought McCole Hardman would look like, turning on the afterburners and leaving the defense in his dust. And Demarcus Robinson made a tremendous play on his touchdown. So it was not Patrick Mahomes making it look easy. The Ravens were able to hang in and see definitive games, career games. You want a night to remember Lamar Jackson by. This is it, man. And I hope that for folks that were on the fence about him or had that narrative in hand that he'll hold the team back, they'll never be able to beat a team like the Chiefs as long as Lamar Jackson's the quarterback.
Durr. He should play wide receiver. Durr. Like, yeah, Lamar, this one's for you, buddy. This one's for you because you can give everyone the number 1 sign, right? I gotta watch for YouTube and. Don't want to say sorry, Joe, but give everyone out there the number 1 side, Lamar, because you deserve it. 239 yards as a passer, couple of picks, 1 touchdown, 107 yards as a rusher, 2 touchdowns. Latavius Murray, 9 for 36 and a touchdown. Tyson Williams, 13 for 77. So we see that split. Murray's still the better back for me, Bloom, because of his versatility. I know some Le'Veon Bell truthers are still out there like, they didn't bring him up this week because they really like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Like, Le'Veon Bell's toast, man. He's done. I'd rather see Latavius Murray get more of the touches, but as long as Tyson Williams is playing well, they're going to give him some touches as well. Marquise Brown, this is what you wanted when you selected him. 6 for 113 and a touch. Mandrew, 5 for 57. It's fine. Yeah, I don't think anyone should be trusting Sammy, but there you go. They did it because Lamar said, get on board, and I'll lead you home.
Yeah, and again, Odafe Owe, first-round pick, with that big forced fumble on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But with Lamar Jackson, and this is how it's going to be, right? It's all on his shoulders. Well, Marquise Brown helped out, and Marquise Brown looked good. It was a busted coverage for the long touchdown, but still, Marquise Brown looks good. He looks quick. He looks swift. He looks healthy, even though he's been on the injury report twice already, had those hamstring issues. You did see that this backfield is just going to be frustrating. Tyson Williams has that burst. Wow. Whew. Matt Waldman favorite. Always listen to Matt Waldman, folks. But you're going to see Latavius Murray get the goal line situations sometimes, most of the time. You saw Williams around the goal line. He also fumbled at the 1. It isn't like they went away from him after that. And then it was Devin Duvernay catching it out of the air and taking it in. Lamar Jackson's interceptions weren't great, but Lamar Jackson still looked pretty good as a passer. And as a runner, it is, again, that indefatigable spirit. There's just no give up. There's no give up in him. There's no give up in this team. And I think CC has really internalized a lot of those narratives. He hears it. And again, this was that game where he showed that he really can pull the sword from the stone. You did see Mark Andrews, 5 catches, 50 whatever yards. You're okay with that, but he just doesn't look dynamic. He doesn't look like when everything was tilted in the Ravens' favor in 2019, he was constantly running free down the seam. You're just not seeing that, and he doesn't look like he's going to really run free from anybody, at least not right now. So, Baltimore, again, this team should be. We should be talking about the 2-0 Ravens and what they've overcome in terms of injuries. Remember, 16, 15 players on IR, something like that. That's ridiculous. That was going into week 2. They had another guy, Westry, another corner they had found. He's already on IR, It's this team, we could and we really should say, 1-1, okay, they really blew the game against the Raiders. They should have beat the Raiders. This should be the team that we're talking about with the spirit of Lamar Jackson. I'm still worried if how many times can he put the whole team on his shoulders and his shoulders not give out? That's the thing. I mean, it was a performance that only Lamar Jackson would have served up because he's going to sacrifice everything he has for his team, and that's going to get his team to sacrifice everything. And you love seeing it even as a Steelers fan, Cease. They're going to Detroit next week, so maybe you treat that one like some of these guys rest or something because they gave all. Cease. Again, I want to say hats off to these teams because Indy didn't win and Minnesota didn't win, not because of their own fault. Tennessee won. Baltimore won. These 4 teams in week 2 played like, if the team lost, they were going to all be executed. I mean, they played like everything in their career was on the line in week 2 of NFL season. That's what keeps us coming back. And of course, all the wonderful people in the chat room. We will never speak of what happened today again.
I don't know, other than the snafu, Bloom. Again, people listening are like, what snafu? Mm-hmm. It's the magic of editing, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. The Monday thing, I mean, it seems like we're getting twice as many viewers as we do on Sunday night. So I don't know. Chat room, let us know what you think. Do you like Sunday nights, like in the heat of the moment, or do you like Monday morning? I kind of like Sunday nights, but we'll see, right? Let the people decide, and then we'll make a decision based on my sleep schedule anyway. All right, that is a wrap for the week 2 recap here on the Audible. He's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. I am at Cecil Lammey. The show is at the Audible. We appreciate you all. You love the show, support the show. Go to footballguys.com. It's about saving time and worrying less and winning more. That's why we're here, footballguys.com. You love the show, you want to support the show, that's where you go. Click that orange button that says join now in the upper right-hand corner of footballguys.com and join us on this fantasy football journey. We are your guides. You are the winner. It is footballguys.com. Make sure to do all those YouTube things like Sasha says, like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you never miss a vid He's Sigmund. I'm Cecil. We're the Audible. Everyone, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned and stay frosty.